Year of the Bobcats, it's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Hey, 2 episodes in a row. 1,266 subscribers. Really appreciate it. See if we can we got a couple weeks, get to 1,300 subscribers before July, and then we need 100 each before we kick off the 2024 season, 100 in July and in August. Okay. Is this the year of the Bobcats? I happen to think it is. They got a big ball game early on, couple of big ball games early on, but they have a relatively easy schedule. All right. And we'll talk about the keys to the season. We'll talk about the coaching at the end. I don't think it's a secret that the defense has to get better and the offense should stay high-powered. So let's start with that offense. You're only adding, and we had this whole, before we get to that, we had this whole quarterback snafu, if that's what we want to call it, where, the incumbent just wasn't sure whether he was coming back. Then he was coming back, and then somebody else showed up. Then the incumbent left, TJ Finley. Then we had to get rid of the guy who showed up, and we're without a quarterback all of a sudden, right? We had one too many, and then we don't have any, or at least not one that's ready to start. And Malik Hornsby took off to go play wide receiver at Arkansas State. And so you only end up with, wait for it, the Sun Belt Player of the Year falls into your lap, Jordan McCloud. He's got a ton of experience. He's going to be a little bit, I don't think cocky is the right word. Certainly confident is the right word. May have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because it kind of felt like he was looking for, with all due respect to Texas State, maybe a Power 5 NIL opportunity after having a fabulous season for JMU. And that either he wanted too much or never materialized, not sure. But to Texas State's benefit, he's now running the Bobcats offense. He gets Ismail Mahdi back as a running back. He decided to come back before Finley decided to come back. And you got Joey Hobert as the team's leading wide receiver coming back as well. This should be, if it can be any more high-powered, you could have it here. These guys were fantastic last season, and they could be even better this season. It would have been interesting to see if Finley took any kind of jump being in year 2. Remember, he showed up late, after spring ball. Well, Jordan McCloud was there for spring ball. So he showed up late for spring ball and still had a fabulous season. Texas State was number 1 in offense, 62 touchdowns, led the conference in points with 477, averaging just over 36.5 points a game. So they should be more high-powered than they were last year. Here's where, I don't like the word maturing here, but maybe play with, because I like to run it up. I like the high-flying scoring ways of G.J. Kinne, but maybe the maturity is the way to do it. Maybe that is the correct word, where we don't necessarily have to light up the scoreboard. We're trying to win the football game. Now, football is different in that, the way you do win it matters. It's not quite gymnastics or diving or one of those, or ice skating, figure skating, where it's, completely judged, but there is a little judging going on by the voters. A lot of them don't see the game. They see the score, blowout win, go for it. But I think we need to, I certainly don't think we're going to ground and pound but you need to know when to ground and pound. You need to know when to take the air out of the ball, that you're up a score or two, and 5 minutes and a field goal is probably just as good than, trying to light up the scoreboard and not doing it and you're kicking it away. Right. And then you go back on defense, maybe get another stop, take another 5 minutes off the clock, and all of a sudden the game is over. And instead of winning by 28, you've won by 17. Kick a couple of field goals late in the fourth quarter. That's what I'd like to see from Texas State. They want to go play high-flying football, and we'll talk out of both sides of my mouth at the end of this episode. But if they want to play high-flying football, for 3 quarters, that's fine. But somewhere along the way, you need to take the air out of the ball and, run it, be able to run it down their throat. You certainly have the potential with Mahdi there, among others. He'll certainly lead the way. But that's where you want to see them mature as a team and mature as an offense. I said I didn't want to use that word, but that's unfortunately the word I'm coming up with. And so if that makes them even more difficult to beat, right? You're almost hoping when they're ahead that they're going to throw it. A, it'll stop the clock, and B, you got a chance for a turnover. Whereas, if you can get them in, if Texas State keeps on, churning the ball on the ground and maybe short passes, and they're converting 3rd and 3s, there's nothing better. Like every set of downs, at least 3 plays, is like 2 minutes with the clock, 40 seconds, right? 120 seconds in 3 plays. And that doesn't even include the amount of time it takes for the play to run. But if you're converting, 3rd and 2s and 3rd and 3s and 3rd and 4s, and maybe even a 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 in there, you really demoralize that team, right? I mean, there's 8 minutes left. You're up by 10. You only need a couple of first downs. And if you get in field goal range, you kick it, right? Every set of downs, basically, depending if you convert it on 3rd or 4th, is 2 minutes. And so it can go a long way in winning a football game and kind of put it in finishing touches. And I'm not worried about running it up and hurting someone's feelings unless it's, 2 different levels of play. All right, that's different. If you're playing an FCS team, that doesn't impress me either. But if you can run up the score, that's fine. But there are games when you're not able to do that, and holding on to the football and keeping the other team's defense on the field is maybe more important than being able to put up 56 points. That's all I'm saying. And I think Texas State can do that with, Jordan, McCloud, different kind of athlete than TJ Finley, a big dude and can run a little bit, but not necessarily his strength compared to his arm. Jordan's got a great arm, but obviously can scamper a little bit and make guys miss. TJ's more along the line, going to run you over. And I think that, the Bobcats offense can be more explosive than it was last year, and yet more efficient at the end of the ballgame. All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, defense has to get better. I don't think that's much of a secret either. We will do that after I tell you about LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a new feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt. your team every day. We're talking, is it the year for the Bobcats? Let's talk about the defense. As explosive as the offense was, the defense struggled. Only ULM. Let me see here. Only Southern Miss gave up more touchdowns than Texas State did last year, and that's in one less game. So Southern Miss had their own issues on defense. But Texas State gave up 50 touchdowns, almost 4 a game. Compare that to the two-time defending champion, Troy, gave up 26 in 14 games. South Alabama gave up 30 touchdowns in 13 games. JMU gave up 30 touchdowns in 13 games. That's a big difference. And so I think it would be probably too much of a jump to where Texas State almost giving up 400 yards a game. Can you cut it down to 40? Can you get it to one less touchdown a game? That's a major improvement. If you cut it by 20%, that would be 42. 20% would be 10. So that would be getting it down to 40. That's a huge improvement. And if you can do that, that helps out the offense by not having to score all those points to cover for the defense. And it gives you another weapon. A lot of times, if you're able to do that with the defense, maybe you can score. And I think Texas State takes a lot of chances with their defense to score on the defense. So there's a little risk reward in that. But somewhere along the way, again, you need to be more. I don't have a problem being aggressive on defense, especially in the Sun Belt, right? To sit back and to keep things in front of you, it just doesn't work very much, especially early on in the season where it's hot out and you're tired and, the offense is dictating what's going on the field, right? I mean, if you do get lucky and get to make a play on the quarterback, okay, but how often does that happen? How often can you count on that? Because eventually, if you do that, the offense, whoever it may be, is going to make the adjustments and going to catch you on one of those blitzes and, go over your head. So Texas State, if they can, 20% improvement on that. Now let's see rushing wise. So their overall defense, average per game, 397.6. That's the yards. Okay. And that was good for 10th in the conference. Rushing, they aren't bad, actually. 6th in the conference in rushing. They give up 100 and they gave up 100, almost 152 yards a game. That's not bad. The top 3 were really good. All right, James Madison giving up like 84 yards, Troy giving up 107 yards, and South Alabama 114. But then you go, Old Dominion's 142, Georgia State's 145. That's not bad, right? A few yards difference, and obviously some of those teams are really good defensively. So, Texas State is right there after the top 3. That's pretty good. Passing-wise, they were 9th, giving up almost 245 yards a game. They did have 11 interceptions. That is, let's see who had the most. App State had 15. Coastal had 14. Handful of teams had 13, and then a handful of teams had 11. So they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th, right in the middle of the pack for interceptions. Doesn't say how many fumbles they caused. So they got to get a little bit better on that. Again, South Alabama, I don't know what happened with this team last year. Goodness gracious, their stats are ridiculous. Less than 200 yards in passing a game. App State 200 yards. Troy about 200 yards. Coastal 200 yards. Cajuns 215. Marshall 220. Georgia Southern 234. Southern Miss 242. So Texas State 245. So you get not a whole lot of difference between Marshall and Texas State, about 20 yards, and it's only about 3 spots in the standings in terms of where they rank. And so can you knock off 20 yards? Let's see where they would be total. If they knock off 20 yards passing and 10 yards rushing, that's 30. My understanding is that there would be no math. If they, doesn't sound like a lot, but if they knocked off 30 yards a game, instead of giving up 400, you give up 370. That would be good for fourth in the conference last year. That's right behind Troy, South Alabama, and JMU. JMU gave up 338 or 333 a game. It jumps to Marshall to 376 or 377. So if somehow they knock off 20 yards passing and 10 yards rushing, easier said than done, you go from 10th in the conference to fourth in the conference. That's a huge jump. Huge jump. And let's see if they can do that. That would be the biggest thing for me. And then the lack of scoring will come along with that. The lack of touchdowns allowed will come along. It doesn't seem like a lot. 20 yards passing, 10 yards rushing goes from 9th in the conference. Is that right? Did I get that right? Hold on. 10th in the conference. 10th in the conference to 4th in the conference. That's huge. That's huge. All right, let's take a timeout. Again, I'm not going to want to use the word maturing, but I'm going to get stuck with that. I will explain. GJ Kinne has to know when, and it kills me. It absolutely does. We'll see if he sees it. You got to know when to play. Keep it close, Chet. We'll explain when we come back. Let me tell you a little bit about FanDuel. Summertime means baseball, the NBA Finals, and more. And you can bet it all on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet everything from Finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the park. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Did take one on the chin today. Paul Skeens had struck out 5 of the first 6 batters he had faced this season. I think it was Friedel. Is it TJ Friedel? Popped up for the Reds. Oops, plus 270. Oh, well. It is what it is. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let me explain Keep It Close Chet. And again, this is where we're also going to talk out of both sides of my mouth because I am Mr. Aggressive. In this day and age, you get inside the opponent's 40 and it's 4th and 4 and or less. I think you go for it. I'm a big believer in that. I don't need to be kicking 52 or 53-yard field goals. You get inside the 40. And it's sometimes cross midfield. Maybe not even cross midfield. And sometimes, I don't know about 4th and 4, but 4th and 2. But you get it inside the opponent's 40. It's 4th and 4 or less. I'm a big go for it guy. My former producer, Chet Yoder, voice of the Shreveport Mudbugs these days, he was a big kick field goal kind of guy. I'm not. I think field goals, what I came up with was Keep It Close Chet. And that's the way coaches play. I didn't get blown out, kept it close. We only lost by 6 or 9 or 10 because I didn't go for it when I could have gotten touchdowns and maybe have won the ball game. But I kept on kicking field goals. And it was, a 24-10 or 24-13 ball game. Whereas maybe if I go for touchdowns, I might be able to win it. But I didn't lose, 35-3. That's Keep It Close Chet. And we talked about it last year where he said he was going to light up the scoreboard, and that's exactly what GJ Kinne did, leading the Sun Belt in offense. What do we say? 36.5 points a game. However, you need to read the room a little bit. All right. You need to, the risk reward has to make sense. And there was one specific game, it was the Cajuns. I know that's a shock. But Texas State was leading at half and really doing a good job of possessing the ball. It was a 13-play, 52-yard drive that lasted 3:39. Unfortunately, they went for a touchdown and not a field goal. So instead of going up 23-14, they were only up 20-14. Now, you don't know this going in. Cajuns fumbled on the first possession, and they did kick a field goal, which probably was based on what happened at the end of the half. So they went up 23-14, could have been 26-14. You don't know that, obviously. But here's where the risk reward is, right? This is not, they went for it on 4th and 3, not from the 3-yard line. And there's only 11 seconds left. It's 4th and 3 from the Cajuns' 18. So you're looking for one more play. After that, are you going to be lucky if it's 2 more plays to get it into the end zone? That's what I mean by knowing when to kick it and knowing when to be aggressive. You want to go for it. Again, Napier did it, right? Scared money don't make money. But that was like on the 2-yard line. I'm not even sure he got in, but they called it a touchdown. But that was, we're either going to score a touchdown or we're going to get stopped. Throwing it in from the end zone on the 18 is not the same thing as trying to punch it in from inside the 2 or the 1. If it was, I maybe have a different point of view. If it was 4th and 3 from the 3, that's different. 4th and 3 from the 18 with 11 seconds left. I'm not even sure if I do 4th and 3 from the 18 with 30 seconds left. I still there's time, but in that case, you get a first down. Now the clock stops and you might have 2 or 3 plays to go in the end zone. So maybe I would, but you got to kick that field goal. I hate to say it. I'm never going to hear the end of it. But that's where you can be super aggressive, but maybe take the foot off the gas. And again, do what's best for the team. And that's the way, you tack on points. It's an easy field goal. We're not talking about, from the 18, what is it, 35 yards? Got to be able to make a 35-yard field goal, right? We're not talking, kicking a 55-yard field goal. All right. We're talking 35-yard field goal. Let's see what the end of the beginning of the second half was, right? And they had another 13-play drive, 54 yards. Mason Shipley made a 33-yard field goal, almost the same thing. 4th and 4 from the 16. So in that game, he learned his lesson a little bit, right? And probably at the time was ruining and maybe even apologizing that instead of being up, 26-14, we're only up 23-14. Now, they did go on to lose the ball game. There was a turnover in there, and, Zion Chris was a magic man, and, TJ Finley couldn't quite finish it off at the end of the game. It was a great game. It was a great football game. But I think with a little improvement, I think the offense is going to be just as it's going to be really improved. I think they will be more efficient at the end of ball games. And the defense just has to improve a little bit. I mean, I guess 30 yards is a lot. And trying to knock off going from 50 to 40 touchdowns, that's a lot. That's a pretty good improvement. But you don't have to be Troy giving up 26 touchdowns is the point of that. And you combine that with a little bit of knowing when to go for it and knowing when to not go for it from G.J. Kinne. Again, this could be the year of the Bobcats. We've gone over their schedule. It's not that difficult. UTSA is a tough spot. They do get Arizona State. We'll see if they've turned things around. They were bad last year. But they get Lamar, UTSA, Arizona State, Sam Houston. They very well could be 4-0 when they're going to Troy Thursday, October 3rd. And that game is already on the U. They are, in their first 5 ball games, they got 3 of them on ESPN. UTSA is on the U. Arizona State is on ESPN. That's a Thursday night game. Then they're playing at Troy. That's on the U. Texas, and they got another game. The Cajuns game, which are hosting, is also on ESPN2. And the more they win, the more some of those games could be on TV. Pretty good. So I think it happens to be the year of the Bobcats. I'm very high on over 8.5. I know the rat poison tweet's coming, but that's okay. I happen to think it is the year of the Bobcats. things have come together when it looked like it was a mess. And again, barring injury, everyone that we've discussed stays healthy. The Bobcats, I think very much so, could be, in the discussion for the playoff. All right, in 2024. Don't look ahead to that Arizona State game. They should actually be more concerned with UTSA. UTSA is probably better than Arizona State. And they found out, and that's the thing, is that UTSA can't be a trap game with Arizona State coming. Last year, it was a letdown game because it came after the Baylor game. This one is coming, and they lost. This one is coming before Arizona State, but UTSA should be a bigger ball game. I don't care about the whole G5, P4 thing. So, all right. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see if we can preview some more. I'm going to try and get eventually. I'm not sure when that's going to happen, but we'll reach out to Phil Steele. His magazine is coming out, and maybe we could talk to some other guys as well, what they think is going on in the Sun Belt, as it's a little bit of downtime before the SEC Media Days coming up in the middle of July, and then the Sun Belt Media Days coming up just after that. So, again, thanks so much for tuning in. Please subscribe, like, and share whenever you see it on social media. We're up over 1,260 subscribers. We need 34 more for 1,300, and then 100 more in each of July and August to get to the goal of 1,500, and I think we can do it. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Dave Schultz, and you've been watching and listening to Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day.